What's up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back to Checkmate Gaming and IHOLDSHIFT, and this is the breakdown. A little bit of an analytical piece that I've wanted to do for a long time, just to kind of showcase some incredible moments that occur from the previous games in the CDL. This one in specific, Toronto Ultra and the Atlanta FaZe, a map 4 gunrunner in which Toronto Ultra find themselves on the brink of a loss in map number 4, down 80 points. They're able to find an incredible comeback, and this is how it happened. So as we jump in, like we mentioned, it's an 80-point lead right now for the Atlanta FaZe with 7 seconds left on the first hard point. The other bit of bad news here is for Toronto is not only did they give up a lot of time on the first hard point, but they've already got the deal with players that from the FaZe are looking to make their way into the back. This is going to set up a pretty natural pinch, as you already see number 6 is trying to make some movement through the middle portion of the map, and with that it allows an opportunity for a hit to come through the front door, as well as potentially reinforce from the back. This is essentially going to establish that the Atlanta FaZe are going to be spawning on the bottom side in cargo containers, which is pretty common. The good news here is for Toronto is, yes, you're spawning up by water tower, but they're going to read the push through the back pretty nicely, sending one player over towards the backside to make sure that the back garage stays safe, while everybody else tries to get into the hard point to bunker up. This is a very passive defensive stand for Toronto, but mostly they have to set up this way simply because of the fact that Atlanta is making their push through. The good news here is that as Toronto gets spawned up, they do find a way to not just get into the hard point, but they zone it out nicely. The 2 kills on the bottom side are brilliant. So now all of a sudden, you have got yourself a pretty solid hold, as Atlanta will be spawning in and trying to make this long hit through the back and potentially pitching from the front. Here comes the hit from the bottom side, and once again, you can see Toronto doing a really nice job of never allowing anybody to get past this line. Even though there's a couple of times where they do contest, Atlanta can never fully break here, so they do stop a significant amount of time through. So as we get into what is going to be the scrap 20, you're going to have one more battle for the hard point, which, as you see it, Toronto is going to convincingly win. And this is where things get a little bit strange, because for Atlanta, you only have one player left on the hold hard point. And instead of cutting through the middle of the map, just about everybody's taken the long route through boxes. And what that's going to allow Toronto to do is essentially find a pretty easy pathway to come right through Cole. So watch how this rotation kind of undevelops, as this is going to be really the key moment where Toronto's going to be able to start to funnel things back. There will be a couple of members who do try to make their way near Boiler, but this is not exactly a hold of Boiler completely. So as there's nobody there, here comes the players for Toronto. They take the middle of the map, they give themselves an opportunity to funnel, and with Atlanta still spawning old, they're in a tough position to where they're only forced to go all the way around the back, and even beyond that, you're seeing a bit of a cheeky play from Selim as he's trying to pinch this. So as the kills start to come through and Toronto gets this initial time, all you have to make sure is that you deal with Selim in the back, which they're able to do. Once again, Toronto starts to spawn up top, and it's an easy pathway for them to funnel in, mostly because Atlanta, once again, has avoided moving into Boiler until really it's too late. We're at the 30-second mark, and even beyond that, they're not going into Boiler. They're trying to wrap all the way back around. So Toronto's feeling extremely safe from the pinch currently, and it definitely helps when Classic goes on 6 in a row. So now, as the hold has been great for Toronto, they deal with all that pressure through the middle of the map. They don't allow any pinches to come through. And again, because they're able to hold this Boiler room, it provides them an exit strategy to get over to P4 quickly, considering that their spawns are still up on the outside portion of these coal stairs. So essentially what you have to do here for Toronto is just keep number 5 alive in Bance, play the middle of the map, let these rotations come from behind, and then keep as many players alive for as long as possible on P3. The whole idea of why you want players on P3 to stay up is because they'll have a very good cone of vision to watch anybody coming across this portion of the map. That's great, because look where Atlanta is spawning, behind what will be P5. So the only avenue that Atlanta currently have are essentially to go through woods. And this whole system has been essentially started because Atlanta neglected to take control of the Boiler room, going all the way around the back, trying to make a long rotation this way. They're essentially trying to pinch from these 2 angles, but when they never get control of Boiler room, all that does is for Toronto sit there and say, okay, we're reading this, and oh, hey, watch out, there's someone behind us. There is so much uncontested space to where they have time to react to it. So now that Toronto has this Boiler room, It's going to be the pivot point for everything that happens from the exit from 3 going into 4. These two members can make an easy rotation over. You play defensively here, and then once this time expires on P3, you can either make a decision. Do you want to push through this direction, or do you want to try to help out from the backside of green? What you'll see is eventually they'll be dealt with, but they will never lose control of this boiler room throughout this opening hit. Here comes Atlanta, again, all from the south side. They can't give up this space. They know they have to deal with these players on the old hill. So as Major Maniac is able to get around the backside with Priesta, they do a little bit of work, but it's just not enough. So it's another situation to where we have now seen P2 initial turn into P2 scrap, turn into P3 initial, turn into P3 scrap, turn into P4 initial. This has all been time that Atlanta has found absolutely none of, or minimal numbers where it doesn't make much of a difference. Again, it was at one point in time, remember the score, it was 71 to 151. Now it's 170 to 160 off of the back end of 2 hills. We'll get a bit of a 50-50 for the hill here, and this is where decisions have to start being made for Toronto. Because at this moment in time, all you're doing is funneling through the back. And at some point, you really want bathroom control, which is what you're going to currently see Kleenex start to do. He wants to make his way into bathroom. And again, the whole reason why is if you control this, not only does it give you an ability to set up a little bit of a pinch, but it also, once again, stops any rotations from coming through for reinforcements. So this is a great spot for someone to be for Toronto Ultra, and they're starting to realize that. Maybe a touch too late, but it's okay because they've only given up about 10 seconds worth of time in total since P2. So now as you're going to see Kleenex make his way through bathroom, now you've got the ability to set up a little bit of a pinch for the hill because Atlanta are so worried about what's going to be coming through this side of the map. They want to make sure they're holding for P5 spawns, which is 100% correct, but the problem is they just don't have the numbers to win this eventual engagement that's going to happen here in the 4th hardpoint. Kleenex takes the kill. Here comes the play now. He's going to check the front, smoke it out, and now he can sit here and watch the entire middle of the map. As soon as he feels safe, he'll go and pinch, and even though he falls, the good news here was for Toronto, you were able to get all of these reinforcements in the back for free. And all of it is just based on the fact that Kleenex wins one gunfight, he smokes out the front, and then tries to go for a pinch. It doesn't make a difference that he doesn't win the kills. He's allowed the opportunity to stop any reinforcements from coming through and allow his Toronto Ultra friends to come into the hill pretty much free. So now that we have 15 seconds left, Atlanta doesn't want to give this time up. This is a big 15 seconds. Whoever grabs it is going to be that much closer to 200, and especially for the Atlanta FaZe, if they're able to break a little bit of this time, the potential of them getting close to win condition off P5 is extremely close. The problem with this next hit that's going to come through is that they're going to be giving up a lot. With 15 seconds left, you're usually looking at the team on this side of the map to start setting up a bit of a zone where you're likely going to have someone around the middle of the map watching here, in green watching here, and then toward the outside of Turbine or Woods watching here, while you've got someone who's floating in the middle and someone soaking up hill time. This gives you the opportunity of controlling so much of the middle of the map that for Toronto Ultra, it's going to take them 20 to 25 seconds to even see this hard point at P5, let alone break it. But you'll see Atlanta FaZe want to contest this time. They'll throw some numbers in, and Cammy's about to have a pretty big moment.
Have to worry about the next hard point. Far left-hand side of the map. Cammy now trying to wait for what he can of this top position. Beautiful shots, and somehow gets away with his life. Cammy, oh my word, if he had the magazine in the gun,
so all of that time, and again, there's just 4 seconds left, but what has occurred is essentially because Cammy finds a couple of kills, that's 2 members of Atlanta FaZe that have fallen, and depending on where they spawn, they'll no longer be able to contest spots on this part of the map. At least not fully, right? There might be a couple of members that'll get close, but they're not going to be able to fully watch the middle of the map. So it's going to give an opportunity for the Toronto Ultra to make their way into green on this wall, and it allows them a chance to set themselves up. You've also got a bit of a mistake right now because look how many members of the Atlanta FaZe are out by Woods. Granted, they spawned here, but there are 3 members that are essentially watching the same thing. So as Toronto Ultra are realizing, oh, this is heavily contested, watch number 2. Kleenex is going to spearhead this charge coming up next with Cammy behind him. They're going to get together. Kleenex is going to dive forward. Cammy's going to be able to follow up right behind. They know that there are too many members for the Atlanta FaZe on the outside, that they're going to give themselves a 2v2 on the hard point, and Kleenex is able to win an absolutely massive 1v1. Miles calls it correctly. Here's the tip of the spear. Beyond that, really quickly, you're going to also notice that for the Toronto Ultra, where are your spawns? You just spawned here. So all of these Atlanta FaZe members that were in Woods have essentially done absolutely nothing. Even though you do find a couple of kills inside of Woods, that doesn't make a difference because now Toronto's spawning here and they've already found a way to break in towards the hard point for some contest time.
Young Dane has managed to slip through the net, and oh boy, a slippery fish he is.
And there it is, a break almost immediately. It was 161 to 71. And now it's 200 plus to 180. And these back handful of seconds are absolutely massive. If you were able to take away these back 20 seconds, of course you can't win the game here, but one of the biggest things to keep in mind is the difference of score. If you give 25 seconds to the Atlanta FaZe, they're sitting at 205 to 211. That is an even scoreline where you figure probably neither team is going to win the game on P1. So it's going to be a pretty desperate fight to see who controls the backside of the minimap. But if you're the Toronto Ultra and you get the 25 points, it puts you close to 240 to where now you can make the decision of, do we try to win the game right here on P1 or do we play for the rotation just to secure the game off the initial time of P2. These 25 seconds of scrap time are absolutely massive, and you're going to see the Atlanta FaZe once again are going to be a little bit left on the outside because there was forward pressure from Toronto Ultra to make the play around the back. Atlanta is completely statuesque. aBeZy has not left the middle, which is not the worst case scenario because if you're Atlanta, you essentially have given up now the rest of the time. You didn't get your breakthrough. But the thing about this is you cannot allow Toronto to win on this hard point. So where you want players to be are in the middle of the map in these positions to try to hold them off for early time. We're going to be getting a 230 plus to 180, and Atlanta's going to do what they can. But again, the biggest thing about this passive setup to make sure that Toronto doesn't win on P1 is that they're not going to have the numbers to contest with Toronto trying to play for spawns in the backside of what will be P2 eventually. And as the wrap starts to come around for the Ultra on the backside, they're also trying to pinch up here. This is a really good coordinated hit. It essentially means that aBeZy in the middle of the map is doing absolutely nothing at the moment. They're able to win the cargo container side, and this is a great base of operation as they're going to be right here in cargo. They could be spawning and hitting the middle. They could be spawning and hitting the front. They could be doing a lot of things. Advance with a couple of kills, absolutely massive for them to hold off. And the same point for Atlanta FaZe, you can't fully commit to getting across the minimap because you can still win here if you're the Toronto Ultra. So this has just been really good passive play, making sure that Atlanta doesn't have the luxury to move around the map. And as we get to 242 to 183, this will be just about the end of the game because as Chance is calling out right now, take a look at the setup. You now have Methods that is down here on 6 in a row, just essentially playing cherry picker from this backside rock, making sure that the Atlanta FaZe do not get an entry this way or up the middle. And because he finds these kills, look at the blue arrows or purple arrows here. They're all focused on the top side, knowing that the Atlanta FaZe are going to likely have to make this push. And from here, it's just about all wrapped up as there's really nothing else that Atlanta could do besides flood. And you could hear it in Chance's voice. He already knows that this game is absolutely over. 249, 250, and an 80-point comeback for the Toronto Ultra. I really hope you guys enjoyed this series. It's one that I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm trying to do what I can to keep it as short as possible, but as concise as possible. So if there are things that you notice that you would have liked to see more of, or you would have liked to see less of, please feel free to let me know. I'll be trying to do this as much, again, like I mentioned, as possible, so hopefully you enjoy the content. And until next time, hope you guys keep holding it down. So long.